guys know anything about me, there is one thing in this world that I am an absolute control freak over. I'm obsessed with, and I am literally just hyperfixated with the absolute concept of them, and that is concerts. Over my life so far, I've already seen quite a few of my favorite artists live. I wanted to make this video so I could discuss sort of my favorite concerts I've been to, venues, artists, and sort of rate and rank the experiences, because even though I have primarily had great experiences at concerts, there is a scale from a good concert to a great concert. And I wanted to unpack what artists, venues, tours I think did that really well. I'm literally like that annoying friend. If you ask to go to a concert with me, there is no like, we're rocking up 1 hour before when the doors open type stuff. Like, we are getting a good spot. I am up on TikTok at night, weeks, months before, searching like, if you arrive at 2 p.m, what will your view be like? I arrived at such PM, what will my view be like? And then thinking about the venue, my past experiences, thinking about all this stuff in my head and trying to figure out the best plan of attack for a concert. So I think I am qualified to speak about what venues, concerts, tours, artists, things I've been to that I think are worth it and were worth it. First things first, my first ever concert was Jason Derulo. The only thing I can remember and of noteworthiness is there were 2 fights that broke out. I had never been to a concert before, and I remember there was a punch up going on down below. There was a punch up in the seats above us. I was like, well, this is what happens at every flipping concert. That is what I always still talk about and remember from that concert, which is kind of a bit weird. Like, I literally don't remember any of the show. I just remember him playing the Wiggle song. And I was like dancing, and I don't think these lyrics were interpreted right by like a 9-year-old. The next couple concerts I went to were family-oriented affairs. I went to Katy Perry and I went to Pink, and the only thing I remember is Pink swinging around. We were up in like higher seats and she swung right past us. Like, why does she always gotta be swinging? Like,
Pink, get down.
And then after that, one of the concerts I still flex on my friends that I went to is the Reputation Stadium tour. I was really, really high up the back, which at the end of the day, you're still there, you're still in the building, but I still think about how Charlie XCX was the opener. Like, what a duo. And it also was one of those rain shows, and so the concert was delayed for so long. I thought it was like, oh my god, it's gonna go to midnight. Like, I'm so scared. But it didn't. And it's like one of those venues in a core stadium. It's just, we were up so high that it was so steep, and everyone was stamping their feet so loud. I was like, bro, so the venue was gonna flipping cascade down. We're all gonna flipping get crushed before the concert even starts. Can we not all stamp our feet while the lightning's happening? And I barely remember the concert. I still have a couple videos that my mum took. Then again, the next 2 concerts I saw were Sheryl Crow and the Monkees, which was another family affair. I was a really big Monkees fan as a kid, and there was only like 2 members left when they were performing. I was like singing every song. It was like the best. I still have a poster that I haven't framed up and I bought from the concert, and it is so cute. Like, when I have my dream home, I will have this beautiful Monkees poster framed up. By the way, I'm not counting any festivals, other like large scale act concerts with multiple performers, because I saw like the Firefly concert in between these, but I'm not counting that because there were so many artists I saw. And between the Monkees, there was COVID, so I hadn't gone to a concert in so long other than that firefighting festival. And so the first concert where I actually was able to film with my own phone, and I got serious about taking like zoomed in concert videos, like getting really into it, was Gorillaz. My friend gifted me tickets, my lovely, lovely friend, and I became such a big Damon Albarn fan. I was freaking obsessed. It was such a good concert, and I just love Cutest Mike Arena. It's just the nice, cleanest, pristine, nice venue. A real turning point in my concert obsession was I went to go to the Billie Eilish Happier Than Ever tour with my mum. And we were sitting in like a first sort of balcony row of seats. And as soon as the concert began, I was like so excited. I stood up, I was screaming, I was like freaking out and like crying and holding onto this railing. And no one tapped me on the shoulder like, get down, stop standing, we are blocking our view. And to some extent, I understand, even when I go to concerts now and I still have seating tickets, I try not to stand the whole time, or I'm like making sure the people behind me are standing, so it's not like I'm taking up their view or anything. But like, it is just the biggest buzzkill when someone's like, sit down. And so following that was sort of the concert when everyone I knew started to be in the standing area, and I was like, oh, I'm so jealous. Like, I want to be down close to the artist, and everyone would post these like amazing videos like next to Billie Eilish or holding her hand. I was like, oh my gosh, if I can escape this problem by being in the standing room, then I will. So that was kind of the point where I was like, I really don't want to have seats. If I am able to, I would like to stand. So the next concert I went to, we bought general admission standing tickets, and it was for Wallows, and I went with my 2 friends, and we arrived there about like 4 or 5 p.m. I wasn't yet sure about like how crowd lining up systems really worked, and because it was like my first time standing, I didn't really know what to expect. So I was messaging all these older kids who I knew who were going, and I was like, you know, like, what do I expect? Or something. They're like, don't worry, if you need us, please reach out, we'll be there for you. And so I was kind of like worked up to a frenzy. I was like, oh my gosh, something bad is gonna happen. I don't know if the pit is for me. But it turned out to be such a great experience. I remember it was at Horden Pavilion, which is just like the most iconic like standing venue. It is not one of my favorites, but it is just like, there's nothing like it for your first like standing room venue. And so then I rushed in and I got my shirt and I was like running into the pit. I was like so excited. I was like, you know, oh, we gotta get a good spot, like all this stuff. My one friend like went in early, and so she was raising her hand and we were like, that's our friend. Oh my gosh, it was like the most chaotic. I was so frightened, but it turned out to be such a good show. And I forgot to mention that I also, the day before the concert, they were hosting like a vinyl signing event at a local record store in the city. And I left school early and I went down there and I met them, and it was such a great experience. But I literally cannot watch the video again without cringing myself out about how absolutely silly I sound.
Thank you so much. How's it going? Nice Von Dutch hat. That's like a very company with a lot of history. That's cool. Yeah.
Hi. You guys gonna play Worlds Apart at the Sydney concert?
Worlds Apart.
Yeah.
Keep it in mind. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mind you, they literally did not play Worlds Apart at that concert, but they played it the second time I went to go see Wallows, so I low-key feel like in my heart they remember me asking, but I'm like delusional. The only thing I regret is we weren't the best with knowing like what people really did after concerts, and so then we'd seen all these videos being like, come around the stage door and you will see Wallows as they're exiting the venue and you can wave to them. And even I forgot to mention, when we were coming in, like, and all my friends were entering as we like were lining up at 4 or 5, we saw Brayden, and my one friend literally was just like screaming, Brayden! And that probably scared them away to the point that we were waiting outside the venue with like other people at the end, and they literally like walked past, they're like, hey, and just hopped in the car and went. There is no point in waiting around for an extra hour when you literally have seen them on stage for the past like hour and a half. My next concert, I literally made a concert vlog on this channel if you're an OG, and I got all this outfit. I was so excited, and we were sitting, and of course another rain show. Like, I am the worst with attracting the rain shows. Anyways, it was such a good show. I remember singing, and I am like, literally everyone's like, yeah, let's film, like this is the best. And when I'm filming concerts, no talking, dead silent, locked in arms like a little Tyrannosaurus Rex. Well, that's how you hold the phone while you're filming. And so because I enjoyed that show, Harry Styles, and he played Medicine, We went again the second night, like last minute. We bought last minute tickets, my mum and I, and we sat up, but it was actually good seats because the first night I was sitting but facing straight on, so it was kind of far at the back of the pit at a core. But this one we were sitting up higher and then right to the side. Personally, I like to, if I'm sitting in a core, I want to sit up a little bit higher or to the side, or just anything to the side I think is more worth it. Even if you get like a bit of an angle on the screen, I don't think that's a big problem. And then he brought out Daryl Braithwaite and they sang Horses, and it was just like, I was literally obsessed with Harry for such a long time after that. Like, that is the freaking goat. I had loved him so long and I was like, this is the best. Another family affair concert was Paul McCartney, and then after that I took my mom to go see Melanie Martinez, the Portals tour, where she had her big full ensemble on and everything. The ICC in Sydney, which I now think is called like the TikTok Entertainment Centre, which actually sounds disgusting. Like, I don't know why they would freaking change it. Has the worst line management I've ever seen. We got there at about 4, I'm gonna say 4:30, and we had VIP early entry. We hopped to the back of this line. The people who were running it were so confused. They were like, no, you're in this line. No, you're in that line. You're over here, no, oh, no. Like, everyone had no idea what was going on. It was actually ridiculous. And so because of that, my mom was like over at the merch or something, and this woman approached her and she was like, oh, hi, are you in VIP? And my mom knew we were in a VIP, and she's like, oh yeah, of course. She's like, oh no, over in this line. So we went over to that line, which was actually not the VIP early entry, but like the VIP package experience one. And I was like, okay, like they're letting them in before they let in the early entry people. And so we told all our other line friends, we were like, come over in this line. And so instead of getting like a Portals like poster, we got the Portals poster but like signed, and we hopped in. We got there at 4:30 and we were second row, and we were like next to all the people who had literally paid probably 400 more than us, which was insane. But like, this woman is pushing from the back of like the pit with her 2 children, honestly probably 8 years old, past me, and it's like, Melanie, and they're like screaming, and then these kids are like, Melanie. One, she literally has a mask on. She is not gonna flipping see you guys, and there is no point. Why are you pushing in front of all these other people to literally like scream? She's not gonna, she's singing right now. It's not like she's like, where are all my fans? Like, she's singing. She's not gonna be like, oh my god, wait, I see some 8-year-olds in the audience. Hey guys, you wanna come on stage? Like, bro, no one flipping cares. I even like ick myself out now when they're like, bye Sydney, and I like start waving. Like, bro, they're not flipping waving at you. So I just don't understand that. Like, there is no point to bring a child that young into the standing room. Like, they are not gonna see. The next concert I saw was, if you want to count, I saw Sabrina Carpenter open for Taylor Swift at the Eras Tour, but let's just count the main act, and I saw Taylor Swift at the Eras Tour, which I am the one who reposts those TikToks where it's like, you know, if my husband will say it's the greatest day of our life at our wedding, but I know that's not true, and it's like a photo of the Eras Tour, and that's me. Like, it was so freaking good. Like, there is nothing like it. We had VIP, but we were sitting in like the lower bowl, and so we got there a few hours early to like soak up the vibes. I had literally already spent a few days beforehand like going to the different merch tents. Like, I had been to the merch tents so often getting all the stuff, so we didn't need to get anything on that day, which was good. No like waiting in lines. We just got straight in. We just soaked up the atmosphere, you know, listened to Sabrina, and I was already like such a big Sabrina fan at that point. Our view was kind of partially obstructed. Like, there was one of those big like listening tower poles, but it wasn't bad to the point where we were gonna say something. Even though we had paid a pretty penny for our tickets. Like, there is nothing like that. Taylor's Tour ticket prices. But you know what? I literally was crying the whole time. I was singing along. Like, there is nothing better than the Eras Tour. And I had like painted my full shirt. I had a full outfit. My mum was wearing a Philly Eagles jacket because, oh my god, my family. Oh, it didn't spill. The next show I had, this was like these shows, Melanie, Taylor, the next one was Maisie Peters, they were like consecutive every month that I was like almost concerted out, which is a crazy thing to say. But a concert is a lot of effort that low-key, even though I love them, I feel good once they end. Everyone's like, I miss this concert. Like, I do feel good when they end because I'm like, that was good. I'm happy I went and I'm happy it's done and I don't have to like worry about my outfit, transportation, you know, view, like all this sort of stuff, which is a bit ridiculous, but I do think that. And so yeah, I saw Maisie Peters, I think March of, if Taylor Swift was February of 2024, Maisie was March of 2024. I saw her, we arrived there, I was like a bit nervous. We arrived there at like 5-ish at Warden to stand, and we were still so close. I love that album, The Good Witch. Then I think I had a pretty big gap. Maybe this show was in October of that year. Yeah, October, and that was Olivia Rodrigo. And that was such a desperate fight. After trying to get Eras Tour tickets, which literally, I started crying once I got them. Like, I was that, like, tired, like, freaked out, like, of how long I'd been waiting in the queue. I didn't get Guts Tour tickets, and I was, like, hysterical. I was like, there is no way I cannot go to the Guts Tour. So I was on TikTok every night, you know, everyone, and you get those scams that I saw a lot during the Eras Tour. It's like, selling, you know, such and such ticket, this view, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, And you know what? I saw one and it was like, hey, I'm selling one ticket, you know, this is the tour, you know, I can't go to this thing anymore. And I was like a detective. I was like stalking their account, like, are they a real person? And I was looking at them on Instagram. I was like fact checking, because a lot of these ones, it's like, it's a scam because it's not even a real person. This one was a real person. So I was like, okay, the ticket was only like, I'm gonna say 130. So I was like, okay, if I lose money on this and it actually is a scam, it's not that bad. I just want to test it because I really need to go see it. So I got dressed up. I talked to this person online before. I was like, you know, yep, I got the ticket. There was a little bit of a kerfuffle beforehand, but it was fine. And I scanned it inside Kiosk Bank Arena. It worked. I literally started crying. I had never gone to a concert alone, and then to be let in through a freaking TikTok ticket, I was like, oh my god. Just like, and I'd already lined up outside for such a long time getting a shirt. I was like, if I don't get in, like, I am gonna be freaking out. And so I literally was bawling all the way to the concert. And you know what, I don't even mind going to a concert alone. So I was kind of sitting in a partially obstructed area. You could kind of, like, the screen was just a bit like warped, like you couldn't read everything. Like when she comes out with her like encore shirt, like everyone was like, what does it say? Like no one could see. Anyways, but it was actually nice because the person next to me was alone, and so we were like, do you want to go down to the front and let's just take photos of each other? I was like, that is exactly what I want to flipping do. So yeah, I loved it. Then I think in December of that year, I'm gonna say it's when I had flipping bleached hair, I saw Wallows again, and this was one where it was like in the school holidays, and I was like, I got all my friends together. I was like, we're getting there at midday. And so it was back at the good old Horden. I waited in line. We got there at midday. We got lunch. We got these big bottles of water. You know, we got all these like numbers on our hands. And so, you know, we were able to freely leave the line and stuff, which wasn't that bad. But like my friends were getting a bit restless, and I was like, okay, like we're gonna get in or what? There was such a push as soon as we were finally let in, maybe around 6 or so, that when we got in, like people next to us were like, oh yeah, we got here at 5 when we had gotten to the venue. Like there was such a push. We weren't even that close for getting there at 12. I honestly don't think it is worth it to get to a concert if it's a small venue. Honestly, even if it's a big venue, because then you have a bigger stage, like, so you're not feeling like sick, I feel like you need to eat lunch and then go to a concert. I don't think I can, I'm saying this now, I'm probably gonna do this soon. I don't think I can logistically go to a concert and get there at like 5 a.m. Do you know what I mean? And so then after that, I went to Billie Eilish, Hit Me Hard and Soft, and I had school that day, and so I was like, uh-oh, like I'm gonna be so far back. I know people who were literally already there. They got there at 5. I was like, I should have skipped school. We got there at like 4:30ish, I would say, and we were so close that I was literally like, we did a full lap around like the middle, like since the stage is in the middle, we did a full lap before we were like, okay, we're gonna go back to where we were at the beginning to stand here. Like, it was such a good stage layout that unless you like wanted to be right at the front and possibly touch her hand, like there is no, it is a lot easier to just come at like 4:30, have, you know, a few people in front of you and feel more comfortable in the pit, you know what I mean, and still get a good view. Then I saw the Oasis tour with my family, and the next tour I saw was Addison Rae, which I went to again alone back at Enmore Theatre. Was this the first time I ever went to Enmore for a concert? Yes, yeah, and I actually really do love the Enmore Theatre venue. It's low-key good being such a small venue, and it has a sort of sloped floor, so even if you're right at the front and maybe you're a little bit behind, since the floor is sloped, you kind of, you know, you're never like too obstructed from the stage. I feel like I got there at about, I'm gonna say 3:34, and I was alone. So I literally brought my little purse and I packed a little crossword book of Taylor Swift Eras Tour crosswords, and I sat there for about 2 hours and I just did crosswords because I don't want to make my phone die. I like raw dogged it on the train. I was like, I can't listen to music, I don't want my phone to die, I gotta get videos, I gotta make sure I can get on my way home with my phone like semi-charged, and I raw dogged it the whole time just sitting there. I didn't make friends in line or anything, which was just kind of too hard because there were already like groups of people. I was like, I'm not gonna be like, hey guys. But when I got in there, I did get people to take a photo of me, even though it's not very good. Didn't really use it anywhere, but it was still such a cute experience, and I literally was like sitting there crying. It's low-key good when you go to a concert by yourself. I was literally filming, I was like crying because like no one you know is with you, so it's not, you're not like, oh my gosh, is my friend gonna think I'm like weird if I start crying right now? Do you know what I mean? Then I saw AC/DC with my family, and then the next tour, which was also at a cool stadium, was Lady Gaga, which I got there at around 3, I'm gonna say, and I waited in line and I started talking to like this random guy. I was like, he was like, you know, is this your first time seeing Gaga? I was like, yes. And then my mum was planning to get there at 5, so she kind of just sneak back into the line, and it was long. It was a long line, and we were at like, there's the back GA, the front GA. We were in the front GA, but we weren't like, I don't know if there was a VIP, but I feel like people were let in before us. I assume there was a VIP, and so we were just in the front. We were like, is it still gonna be a good view? And it was such a good view. It is, again, such a big stage. That's the only thing about being in a bigger stadium, is there's a bigger stage, there's more like room for you to be closer, if that makes sense. But it was, of course, another rain show, and they literally had to stop the show, I think I'm gonna say 2 times. Stop it like when it was starting, when dancers had just come out and, you know, Gaga wasn't out yet, and they all went back in. Then they did it again, and then like I think one of the dancers, she slipped or he slipped as they were going down the runway, and they had to, like, she literally came out, Gaga, and was just like, you know, guys, we're just gonna have to stop it, we're gonna have to put grips on the shoes, like, bear with us. It was so crazy, like, such a great performer. She literally came out, you know, the lights are still down, she came back out and she was testing, you know, the shoes, dancing on like the rain covered like catwalk and stuff with another dancer, and it was just such a great show. She's such a great performer. Now I'm on to the concerts I've seen this year, which has only been 2. I went to Bad Bunny with my friends, and we got there at about 4:30. There's a common theme of the time I like to get there. It was at NG Stadium, which I'd never been to before for a concert. It's more of like an AFL stadium, and I was like, you know, like, we're gonna be so close, it'll be so good. I had never seen, it was like Eras Tour level for the people who were like outside, like having a block party, like singing, dancing, music. It was such a great atmosphere, but I low-key feel like it was also very disorganized because we had to be like led through these like other paddocks and stuff before we even went into the stadium, which was low-key really weird. We were in the front GA again, but we weren't that close. We were still close, but not that close. Other than Taylor, this had such a great atmosphere, but it's like a different atmosphere to Taylor because he was just off the back of the high of the Super Bowl performance. Everyone was so excited, and for a group of 3 teenage girls who don't speak Spanish, we loved it. We love listening to Bad Bunny's music. We know the words, we know it, maybe even if it's just phonetically, we sing along. But it was kind of different because of course he speaks mostly in Spanish, and so it was really nice that people in the crowd, which was mostly all like Spanish, like native speakers, they were like, you know, we'll translate for you, you know, we'll talk, and it was nice. It was such a nice community. Then just this past week, which I wore one of the new shirts that I literally showed in my haul, I went to Audrey Hobart, which was so good. Then again at Enmore, I went with my friend and we brought our 2 mums, and we got there about, I'm gonna say 5:30, and we were still such a good view, so close. It was a really short show too. It was only 50 minutes because she only has the 1 album and then she plays Sue Me 2 times. But it was such a great chill concert experience. I literally love Enmore. It is so nice in there. It's nicely air conditioned. Other venues, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to pass out because I have felt like low-key faint at other concerts before, at like Kudos or at like Horden, but Enmore is so nicely air conditioned and so like well kept that I just love when I see that the concert's gonna be there. Like, thank you. And now the only other concert I have booked for the end of the year is Harry Styles, which I have not been seeing the best things about. I know that he recently fixed up some of the elements people were attacking him about, like there was these bridges where VIP people couldn't see, and you know, he had minimal sort of, not stage presence, but minimal choreo and things he was doing on the stage, and like not hitting the high notes and stuff. And I was really desperate to be in the floor standing room, but we are actually up high in the seats for this concert. And I'm low-key happy that I'm in the seats because I think then you get a better perspective and view of this show rather than like, it seems like the stage is so big that you don't get to see him all that often and you don't get to really see the full perspective of like the stage. That's the only thing. Being in a core, it'll be like, you can't really see everything, whereas at Lady Gaga, because we were so close to the front of the catwalk where, you know, the stage is here, the catwalk's here, and we're like right on the cusp of it, seeing both sort of angles, then it's worth it. Whereas if you're like too far back, I would rather just sit and just get the full experience from a seat perspective. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Comment what your guys' favorite concerts you've been to are, because I know that I don't really have a good breadth of artists I listen to. But thank you again so much for watching. I hope you loved this video. Hope it was semi-informative and not just a flippin' yap fest. But thank you guys. Bye.